If you like this channel and what I do here, please help to support my work by checking out one of my books, available from Lulu Publishing and Amazon.com. Thank you.
Birds are quite loud today, aren't they?
Hi folks, Carl Jones here from Electric Media Madness, and you're watching Rewatchable. I'm joined again today by Dan Ryan. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good.
Good,
nice
good.
and warm.
So we've watched. We're going to basically it's a time anomalies, isn't it? That's what we're going to be doing with this video. We picked 3 episodes from Star Trek Next Generation. Yesterday's Enterprise from the 3rd season. I have my trusty Star Trek Next Generation. Donkey's years old. I'm sure it's been updated several times, but Yesterday's Enterprise from the 3rd season, and Cause was it? Yeah, it was Cause Effect. Cause Effect from the 5th season, and a classic. All good things. Yeah. The series finale. So because they've all got kind of sort of temporal anomalies in the, for want of a better way of putting it. So then, Yesterday's Enterprise, written by a number of people. Actually, what's interesting about Yesterday's Enterprise is that it started life as many, many different series. I was just reading my notes in here, that originally the Enterprise C came forward but didn't actually change the future. And Picard was just trying to sort of decide whether or not to reveal their fate to them of what was that they were going to die. Yeah. Then they were toying with this idea of the Guardian of Forever from the City on the Edge of Forever, the portal. Yeah. And this idea that there'd been this archaeological mission that had accidentally changed history, and Surak, the founder of Vulcan Logic, was killed. And his absence led to this new timeline kind of thing, and it caused this big violent Vulcans joining up with the Romulans and this super empire, and they wiped out the Klingons and all that kind of thing. And
sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it would have been far too expensive to build.
Oh yeah.
But what's interesting about that story is the idea was that they were going to send Spock's father Sarek back in time and replace Surak in the past, and he would become like the father of Vulcan Logic and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And they did use Sarek, because later that season 3, they actually brought him back for an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. So that didn't go to waste. But it all kind of. But if you look at the credits for it, teleplay by Ira Steven Burr, Richard Manning, Hans Beimler, Ronald D. Moore, based on a story by Trent Christopher Ganino and Eric A. Stilwell. So there's a lot of writers on it. Apparently, they all thought that it was going to be a flop when they wrote it.
Really?
They were convinced that it was just a mess of a story, and it was only when it aired and the audience response to it was so. Even after they'd finished it, they really did not think it was.
That is surprising.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm very shocked.
It's a great episode, isn't it? Yeah. So what did you think of it then overall?
I thought it was great.
That's the first time you'd watched it, hadn't you?
Yes, it's the first time I'd seen all of these.
Yeah.
You can tell they put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
Because they really went all out with that.
Yeah. It was everything but the kitchen sink kind of thing, wasn't it, in terms of the time travel aspects of it. You got an Enterprise from the past, which I think at that point we weren't really all that aware of the Enterprises that came between Kirk's time and Next Generation. Yeah. So gaps were being filled in. And contrary to popular opinion these days that there's never been any strong female characters in Star Trek until certain series that shall go unnamed, we had Captain Rachel Garrett, the captain of the Enterprise, which is a female captain. Good, strong character as well. Yeah. Bites the dust part way through the story, unfortunately, but nevertheless certainly makes her presence known, doesn't she? For the brief time that she's in it. Yeah, yeah.
They took it quite a unique way that I didn't think they would. Because a big focus of it is Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
And I forget his name.
Castile.
Yeah. Quite a lot of it is focused on them and him kind of coming to terms with whether he's going to be sent back to die or not. Yeah. And then when she realises that she should be dead, she joins him, and it was just a different take and not where I thought they were going to take it.
I like that when they do time travel stories and they kind of put a twist on it, you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Because I thought it'd just be the two captains.
Yeah.
And that'd be it really, but it really wasn't that.
No. And I think, I mean, I'm not so sure how much of that was story, whether they'd... I know that Denise Crosby, who played Tasha, because of the fact that you're still sort of playing catch-up with Star Trek, I had to sort of point out the fact that Tasha Yar was a character that... Because you weren't all that familiar with that, were you? Yeah. But that's good, actually, that even with your unfamiliarity with the character, that you felt like the resonance of it in the story.
Yeah.
I believe the actress actually wanted to come back and do one.
Because she probably realised not a great idea either.
Yeah. I mean, she came back a few more times, but I'm not going to spoil some of those episodes for you yet because you haven't seen them. So, but you know naturally that she was in All Good Things. So we'll come to that. Yeah. But yeah, nice little focus, and again, as we talked about, Best of Both Worlds and Guinan, some really good Guinan stuff as well. Yeah. Fleshing out her character even more. She's got this awareness of things outside of the normal realm of time, and
she realises something's not quite right. But
can't put a finger on what it is, but I mean, certainly she seems to be aware of the fact that Tasha Yar was supposed to be dead. You know, I mean, she says that, doesn't she?
Well, yeah, when she walked in, you could tell that. Yeah.
There were a few things actually that slipped my mind. Actually, though, I was thinking about it because again, good music.
Yeah. In
that one, like Best of Both Worlds, a lot of consistency there with season 3 with the soundtracks. Again, it was another one that I believe I had on CD, and for the time, good special effects as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they get kind of trounced by some of the stuff that's done later in Star Trek. But not bad for the time. And a lovely little tie-up at the end as well, where Guinan sort of sits down with Geordie in 10 Forward and says, "Tell me about Tasha Yar," or that kind of thing. Yeah. And you probably wouldn't have picked up on this because of the circumstances and the way we watched it at the time. But one of the little errors of that episode is, if you look closely, because the collars are in the alternate timeline, the collars are all sewn up and different. The uniforms are different slightly. Geordie's still wearing his alternate universe uniform in 10 Forward, which is a nice little error. That fans like to notice them sort of things. But yeah, good story. And the introduction of prune juice for Worf as well, right at the beginning of the episode, which comes back many times later in the series, and Deep Space Nine as well. I love that line in The Way of the Warrior, where he walks into Quark's bar and he says, "What will it be? Klingon blood wine?" He goes, "Prune juice," and Quark goes, "Prune juice." Anything else that we wanted to say about that? I mean, there isn't a great deal to. It is the quintessential great. I mean, people say time travel, but it's not really time travel. It's more like a parallel universe, alternate timeline sort of story. Time travel in the respect that the Enterprise C has come through from the past and then goes back there again. Again, I don't want to say too much about the fate of Tasha Yar, because that's something that you will see as stories go on. But no, Tasha Yar's story is not ended there, believe it or not. So yeah, great story. Great story. Anything else you wanted to say about it?
It's because there's been a gap since when I watched it and now recording this, and I can't really think of anything bad about it. Really, no. It does a lot of things really well. It, especially with Guinan, it does like show don't tell really well. Yeah, like you can tell just by looking at her, like what's going on. Yeah. And
Whoopi Goldberg was always, I mean, she's a good actress anyway, but she was always an asset to Next Generation. Yeah. She was a big fan, wanted to be on it, and apparently had to pester them. She wanted to be in it right from the beginning, and she didn't come in until season 2. And she had to, because she was good friends with LeVar Burton, who played Geordie LaForge. Yeah. And she said to him, you know, "Can you get me a phone call with Gene Roddenberry?" And I think that's how it happened in the end. They specifically wrote the character for her. Yeah. But she was always a great asset to the show. Yeah. A couple of other things I noticed as well was interesting is the interplay between Riker and Picard in the alternate timeline. They're very off with each other. Very sort of, you know, the toll of war and all that kind of thing. And Picard. Yeah, I'm aware of your opinions. Yeah, good, nice little tweaks, nice little touches like that. And no Deanna Troi, obviously, no Counselor on the bridge because it's a warship. naturally, Worf wasn't going to be there if they were at war with the Klingons, but I do believe that one of the touches was that the voice, it might have even was going to be on view screen, that the captain of the Klingon ships that were attacking was going to be Worf.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't think it was shot, but for some reason it was nixed from the script. So, but nice little touches like that, yeah.
One thing that I actually I said to you after watching it was they're stuck in this like lost war. Like they all know that they're losing.
Yeah.
I think Picard says 6 months at best.
Yeah,
I think.
something to that effect.
Yeah. And they're still more optimistic and hopeful than anything in Discovery and
contemporary Star Trek. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, they're very much still working together. They're not trying to sort of stab each other in the back and be inconsistent and all the rest of it that goes with contemporary. I mean, we try not to bash. As much as we love doing it, and rightfully there's a very legitimate reason for doing it, because these things need to be called out on what is good Star Trek and what Star Trek has become.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Even in a dark universe like that, where this
because that's way darker than Discovery and Picard in terms of what's actually going on.
In terms of the events, yeah. But they're still kind of like still trying to that sense of optimism, that sense of we'll fight the odds.
Yeah.
I mean, Picard knows that the ship's going to be destroyed. There's all flames on the bridge at the end, and surrender, and he goes, "That'll be the day." and that line as well. Let's make sure the history never forgets the name Enterprise. It's a classic line in Star Trek. That is brilliant episode. Yeah, great stuff. Cause and effect. Brannon Braga story. Brannon Braga being one of my. I have a huge amount of respect for him, especially since he's gone on to do some great stuff with the Orville with Seth MacFarlane, which is like the honorary crown of Star Trek today, in my opinion. Interesting episode. Before Groundhog Day as well, which surprises a lot of people, that idea of the loop. What initial thoughts? The teaser.
The little... So the episode starts... and the Enterprise is destroyed. Yeah. And then the credits roll. Yeah. So straight from the start, like, I'm in. Give it me.
Yeah. And it's one of those little urban legend stories that I don't think it is urban legend. I think it is accurate, but people were phoning up the TV stations and thinking there was something wrong with the television. The episode was being repeated from a great premise, very slightly tweaked each time.
Yeah,
I think it's about 5 times through the loop. I can't remember. I think it's about 5.
I think it was 4 or 5. Yeah.
Taking place over 17 days, I think they say at the end.
17,
Each time through, they're kind of figuring out that something's not right. They think it's like deja vu or nipoch, as Worf calls it.
Yeah. It takes a few times for them to really realise what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they figure out they can send a message.
Yeah.
But only about a word.
Yeah.
So then you're left stuck for a while.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what that word was or what that message was.
It took the event to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Because they figure it out, don't they? In that in the penultimate one.
Yeah.
But it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be really funny if they hadn't have figured it out. Then they went round again, and then they'd forgot to set up the signal thing, and you'd have been stuck there forevermore, wouldn't they? Data just hadn't. I mean, that's a plot contrivance. They had to figure it out, really, didn't they? That message through the time loop.
Yeah. And I really didn't know that, because I thought it was something to do with like the cards or something.
Yeah. Because he's doing like the level 3 diagnostics and
Well, I had no clue what it was by the end.
I would have liked to have seen more examples of 3.
Yeah.
Because they kind of say, Data's encountered so many examples of 3 and all this kind of... I would have liked to have seen just a few more, but then Brannon Braga would have had to really kind of think, what kind of things that I can sort of make Data subconsciously do that are like a 3 or something, like start impersonating the 3 amigos or something. I don't know, just something really like obscure that would be a bit less obvious than the 3 of a kind level 3 diagnostic. And if you think about it, it probably is difficult to think of things that you could make happen that seem natural, but they're not. That give an indication of number 3.
I don't think they could have done much more without it seeming forced.
a heavy Dr. Crusher episode as well, in terms of, which is unusual for those types of big episodes. Tend to be centered more around like Data, Worf, Picard, maybe Riker, but Dr. Crusher carries that one, and she does a good job of it. You know, Gage McFadden, she does a great job of it in that episode. Yeah, a little bit like over rehearsed when they're going through the, you know, like I'm fine when she breaks the glass and that. The line's slightly stilted, isn't it? That kind of natural looking sort of like pause.
Just another great episode. Yeah. Not quite as good as Yesterday's Enterprise, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a great little story. It's unusual. It's unique. People have talked about whether that kind of story had ever really been done before in science fiction. It's quite possible that there is some literary examples. I'm not aware of anything in television or film in that way. And a cameo by Kelsey Grammer as well from Cheers and Frasier, because they were filming Cheers at the time, I believe, on the Paramount lot. A huge Star Trek fan, and he'd been lobbying for quite an amount of time to have some sort of little. And we'd already had he's Lilith, the actress' name escapes me, Newworth, in season 4. Played in First Contact episode, played an alien nurse. So yeah, I mean, you can go back and say like Kirstie Alley being in Star Trek 2, who was in Cheers. So there's been a lot of crossover between Cheers and Star Trek. But great to see him there. Captain Morgan Bateson, who's unaware of the fact that he's like been stuck in the loop for like 80 odd years.
That was really well done.
Yeah, and the movie era uniforms as well, the Kirk era uniforms. So yeah. Good story, really clever story. Yeah, great special effects as well. Yeah, when the Bozeman hits the warp nacelle of the Enterprise and it starts spinning around and all that, really good for the time. Brilliant. Special effects.
Very good for the time. Yeah.
So, season 7 finale, series finale. Yeah. All good things.
Yes.
What can you say?
We'll try not to talk about Picard too much with this one.
I think we probably will have to mention something about Picard, because it not only is it a fantastic Star Trek episode overall, as well as Star Trek Next Generation. It's a great piece of science fiction, but it really shows up where Star Trek has gone. Yeah. Now.
And that's where it should have gone.
Do you want to talk something about that? Because you made quite a few observations. I mean, I made a lot of sarcastic remarks to myself when I watched it. Like every time Q would talk about, you know, the future isn't written, when you become a synth and all this kind of, I was just like knocking them out.
They do a lot of. They had such a good setup from this episode. They could have, say, just took where because he's jumping through time.
Yeah.
Through 3 points in time.
3 points in time. The just before the pilot episode.
Yeah.
When the episode's set, and 25 years in the future, something like that.
So instead of doing this crap story that they've done now in Picard, they could have just used this and expanded on it further, and it'd have worked, and it'd have been great, and everyone loved it.
Yeah.
Because they took stuff from it, like his illness. And
they did. There's so much of what's in Picard is from All Good Things. The illness, even the scene when his old friend, which I still to this day maintain. I think I said this in the video for the episode of Picard. I think that scene was originally intended for Dr. Crusher, which would have been that scene in his ready room where she comes in and starts talking to him and saying, this is going to be a long illness, it's not a pleasant one, sort of thing. I think that was originally intended for her. That's just a guess on my part. But that scene copies that almost beat for beat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And we found that a lot when we watched Picard. That I know it went off into some just kind of territory in the end.
But the early
stuff, is All Good Things. The vineyard, everything. Yeah. Let's go and get a ship. Let's go and find out what's going on. Yeah. With the exception of that Picard has no hesitation in All Good Things.
Yeah.
Of going and rounding up his old crew.
Yeah. Now he's just
I mean, we've said that's probably much more to do with cost, Patrick Stewart's ego, wanting to be the not have.
Yeah.
I know they did bring Data and Riker and Troy into it, but they're glorified cameos, really.
Yeah.
You know, this is Patrick Stewart stroking Patrick Stewart's ego, you know, wanting to be about him and that character. But and some people would say, well, why would you want to repeat it? But again, I've said this time and time again: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You get a good story. If you're a good writer and a clever writer, or a group of writers, you can take something. Things have been repeated and regurgitated ad nauseum in Hollywood and the media for decades and decades. So why not now?
I mean, the future bit in All Good Things is probably about 30 to 40 minutes. They could have really expanded upon that in Picard and gone from before to like all the way through, but in more detail than just kind of jumping around to like he's there, then he's there. You see it happening, and it everyone would have loved it. Yeah,
and there is an argument that, I mean, they do say in the episode, that it is only a possible future. This doesn't necessarily mean to say, but again, it's surprising how much of what happens in Picard is along those lines, but not in a way that's. It all seems contrived now, but in All Good Things, it seems to flow very naturally. And one of my little tiny issues with All Good Things is the fact that there's two things really. One is that you've got the Q MacGuffin, and people would say, "Oh, that's lazy writing because all Q has to click his fingers, you know, and that kind of." But that is the nature of the Q character. That was the way it was set up in the beginning. So you have to work within the parameters of that, which again is maybe why you can overuse a character like Q a bit, the same as with the Borg, because it's so easy to just click your fingers and it's done. Yeah. But God knows we could have done with Q at the end of Picard to click his fingers and get wipe that shit away. But he effectively does that. Everything's reset.
Yeah.
It's Picard. Well, it's Picard that did it. They closed they shut down the anomaly and all that kind of thing. My other issue with the episode is all the techno babble in the last sort of 20 minutes. It's a bit sort of techie, Star Trek techie jargon stuff that kind of conveniently gets them out of the anomaly plot. But again, it's within the established canon of Star Trek. They've always done techno babble, so why would they not do it?
Yeah.
Yes, it would have been easier. It would have been nicer if we'd have had something a bit more straightforward and character driven. I was going to say, but a lot of the episode is very character driven, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get some really good moments there. There's some great stuff. If you've got the what if Worf and Troy would have been together, and how Riker feels about it, and their friendship kind of.
Yeah.
So, in a way, that kind of makes Riker quite a bitter man.
Yeah.
As he's got old, so he's reluctant to help Picard as well. You find out that Picard and Beverly were married and then divorced again, but she kept his name, Captain Picard, and some great stuff with Data. We talked about the interplay between Data and Picard in Picard, but then when you talk about it in All Good Things, because you said about that, didn't you, about how
they did the Data stuff really well in All Good Things. It's like, so he discovers summer in the future, and then Picard goes back and is like, Captain, I'm very impressed.
Yeah. But Picard makes a point of saying, you are a clever man in any time period. So it's Data, yeah. And I love that line about the to ignite the midnight petroleum, burn the midnight oil. That's a great line, that is.
It's such a good episode, though. Like, right from the start, because you don't really know what's going on. You don't know if he's just gone senile.
Yeah.
You don't
dreaming or hallucinating or You
don't know anything, and I mean, only like when Q shows up, you know what's sort of happening, but not really.
The reveal is quite close to the end, isn't it? It's like when you start to get this when they go to the primordial Earth, and you realise that it's Picard's actions. Again, there are some tiny continuity areas, like when they show up in the Pasteur to find the anomaly in the future, it's not there. And then they go back and they create the anomaly, but because the anomaly travels backwards through time, it should have been there when they showed up in the Pasteur, because it's created and then the size of it increases as fast. So they go back to it the second time, and it's there, and they've created it, but it wasn't there before when they went in the pasteur. But you could argue that was a paradox because they hadn't created it, so it wouldn't be there. And it is established that those lines are independent of those timelines are independent of each other, so you can kind of forgive that. It's not the kind of whopping continuity error that we see in Star Trek now. It's one that you can keep within the realms of well, that's plausible. It's not like a space ocarina that you just magically use it to repair an entire ship, that kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway. But one of the things the list of stuff in this episode is great. Tasha Yar-back. You've got Chief O'Brien in it as well. You've got Andreas Katsoulis playing. He's delivering with much more like Shakar in Babylon 5. But that was a character that he'd played for 3 episodes of Star Trek Next Generation previously. But he played it quite sort of stoically and seriously. But you could tell that the gravitas of Jakar had really rubbed off on the actor. How long should we stare at each other across the neutral zone? You know? So he's really channeling Jakar there for that one. The Pasteur is a great design ship. That battle when the Enterprise flies in with Riker, with the 3 warp cells and that big phaser cannon thing. Yeah. One of my criticisms, which was put right to some degree in Deep Space Nine, but one of my criticisms in early Star Trek is it's very much a 2-dimensional space battle. Ships like sort of there, like that, and they're kind of facing each other and firing. Space seems to be just on a plane, and that's it. There's no 3 dimensions. But in this one, the Enterprise is in underneath, firing through the underneath of the Klingon ship and comes flying through it. And fantastic special effects. Again, brilliant music as well. At the end, the Klingon battle cruisers look brilliant in that.
It's like the ultimate episode.
It is.
It has everything.
Yeah, and interestingly, I found a quote in my trusty dusty Next Generation companion, and I do want to read it out for viewers because I really thought this says something absolutely fantastic. This is Michael Piller, who's wrote, co-created Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and wrote Lord knows how many episodes of Star Trek, showrunner on Next Generation. And this is what he says: it's a symbol of the cast, the crew, the writing staff, and the fans. All the families of Star Trek Next Generation, and the realisation that every moment is precious, affecting all of those before or after. You can revisit it, you can remember it, laugh about it, hold reunions, go to conventions, show reruns forever, but you can never live that moment again. If man is to evolve into the next level, he must learn to explore the moment. But in that the fans. It was about everything. There's nothing wrong with fan service. There's nothing wrong with treating your fans, It's a Valentine to the characters and a Valentine to the fans as well. It's everything you could wish for. Not only as a finale to a series, which I think it is probably one of the great series finales.
Oh, I don't think I've seen one that ends that well. Yeah.
It's positive. It's optimistic. The sky's the limit, as Picard says. They're off out there, and that's a wonderful feeling as well, because whatever came afterwards, that the Enterprise is still out there. They're still off on the missions. They're still exploring. The crew is still together, and people might say, oh, it's a bit of a cheesy way to it. It's they like their nihilism in the world. They like their depressive ending where half the cast are killed, and Lord knows what doesn't make any sense. And they all of a sudden, after 8 seasons, they all start acting out of character or whatever, or whatever. Delete appropriate show wherever they're. But this is a show that doesn't do that. It just does everything that it says on the tin. It delivers. It's perfect. Yeah.
And the last scene as well is just excellent.
Yeah.
Picard, they're all playing cards. Picard walks in. Do you mind if I join you?
Yeah. I mean, it might sound like for this we're gushing, and people might think that we are over gushing because we're trying to make a point that that Star Trek was good and we're to bash on other. But no, if you've got your head screwed on the right way round, you will go away and you will watch these Star Trek episodes, these classic episodes, and unless you really can't see it for what it is, then you're in a state of denial or you don't want to know. No, la 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 la. They are what they are. They clearly are what they are. They're great pieces of television. They're great pieces of science fiction, and they're great Star Trek. They're fantastic Star Trek.
I sound like a fanboy. But
You can't help it, can you? Though that's the trouble.
I haven't even seen that many episodes.
You're not like a raging Star Trek fan like me. You know, you.
I've only seen probably about 20 episodes of The Next Generation. Probably about the same.
You're working your way through them slowly but surely. It's not in the 9 hours in the day, but.
So the fact that you're such a huge fan, and I'm slowly getting into it now, and we have the same opinions on it, shows that they are just really good episodes.
Yeah,
and,
I think so. Yeah. And I've shown a lot of these episodes to people who aren't Star Trek fans in the past, and like just trying to get. As one of my joys in life is getting people to watch these things the first time and watching their reaction and seeing what they think of it. And that I love that. And I've known a lot of people, and they've said, "Yeah, I'll hold my hands up. That is really, really good."
Yeah.
And then I have just not said anything bad or anything like that, but I have said to other people in more recent years, just go away and watch Star Trek Discovery and just let me know what you think. I'm not going to tell you anything about what I think about it. Just watch it, or Star Trek Picard. And they've come back and they've said, "That's not Star Trek. I've seen what is Star Trek. That's not." I've not had to say anything.
Yeah.
So it does speak for itself, doesn't it? Yeah.
Star Trek is such a unique series. Just the way everything's is quite unique to other things. Just the optimism, the way
you hit the nail on the head. That optimism. Yeah.
And the newer series are just like generic sci-fi series, really.
And they're also very nihilistic and very destructive and sort of And optimism is the word. It's the watch. There's dark periods in all of the earlier Star Trek series, but fundamentally there's a message of hope that humanity can be better and can. They haven't got the petty hang-ups anymore. You don't have to keep pointing out things. They just are what they are, and people live together.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they just get on with things.
They've overcome things like racism.
Humanity as is. Anyway, yeah. Obviously, you've got drama and antagonism that in terms of how humans interact with the alien species.
Yeah.
But
between themselves.
But between themselves.
All these petty things.
Yeah. You don't even have to. It isn't even. It's a non-issue.
Yeah.
It was there in the original series of Star Trek. When Abraham, the Abraham Lincoln thing calls her a charming. I'm not going to use the N word, and they talk about how that's not. And oh, I'm sorry, did I? And her is like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We don't worry about those things now. Because we're all out there together, bettering ourselves. No one wants for anything.
It's okay putting modern issues in shows.
Absolutely, yeah.
But in a show where they've overcome these issues and they're better than these issues.
Yeah, you have to present it in a very subtle, thoughtful way. Like a morality tale as opposed to bashing people over the head preaching,
And they kind of have to look back at how they were before.
Yeah.
Because they're significantly in the future.
Yeah.
And look at how different they were before instead of acting like they're like that now.
Yes.
Because they're not like that.
Because they're not like that. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Within that fictional future, absolutely. Yeah. And to fly in the face of that, you're completely contradicting that future that's been created. The only conclusion you could come to then is that you are dismantling that future to turn it into something that's not that future.
Yeah.
Which then completely undermines what that optimistic future is. You may as well not even make Star Trek anymore. It may as well not. Yeah.
Because it just becomes some generic sci-fi channel TV show.
But the same as pretty much anything that's around at the moment. Yeah, exactly. And that's why the Orville's done so well, because they've Seth MacFarlane, he was schooled on Star Trek Next Generation in the original series as well. He understands that. He knows that is. If you've got to have some optimism sometimes in these kinds of things.
Yeah.
You can't make the world just. The world is such a miserable, depressing place as it is anyway, especially at the moment. With all the. Yeah, don't get me on that one.
Yeah.
But in any case, there has to be some optimism in the world. There has to be some hopefulness.
Yeah, at the end of except like 2-part episodes, but mostly at the end of an episode, that they're gonna go off and explore and everything's all fine.
I mean, Deep Space Nine is different from that, but next year, I see what you're saying.
They all, that everything's fine. They're all yeah.
And that's summed up at the very end of All Good Things, isn't it? Yeah.
Why are all the dogs barking?
They're agreeing with us. They're agreeing with us. They even the dogs agree with us.
We must be right.
We must be right. So anyway, what should we rate them? Is there anything else you wanted to say before we do that, or I think we pretty much covered that, haven't we? But
just watch them if you haven't.
Yeah. So Yesterday's Enterprise.
I think Yesterday's Enterprise is a 10 still.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't really find much fault in it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Yesterday's Enterprise is a 10. Yeah. Cause and Effect. It's not.
It's not quite as good,
is it? It's a brilliant episode, but
I think maybe a 9.
Yeah.
For that one.
Yeah. Again, the same. Yeah. Sorry, we're boring. Yeah, 9. Yeah. And you say All Good Things.
All Good
10.
Things are 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Just the whole episode, you're so engaged, and it slowly sprinkles little bits of information in.
Yeah.
For you to try and figure it out, and
it loves the fans. You can tell the writers love the fans. The writers were fans as well. That's the beauty of that.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah. Go out on a song. That's what they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for joining me. It's been great. I really enjoyed doing it again. And we hope you've enjoyed the video as well. Please remember to try and subscribe to the channel if you can. I'd really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video.
Goodbye.